And a very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Issues and Attitudes. My name is Jeff Owens, General Manager at WEIU TV and Radio. My co-host is Tristan Thomas.
Hello. Happy Monday.
And our guest today, Mr. Doug Abolt.
Good afternoon.
Doug is the CEO of the Charleston Chamber of Commerce here in Charleston, Illinois, the newly appointed CEO and director over there. So, Doug, before we get into some of the activities of what you're doing and what the Chamber's doing, I kind of want to dig into the Doug Abolt mind just for a minute, if you don't care. and because you were a retired, I would say, businessman from the area. Is that a safe way to say it?
Yeah, that's right. And then, as you dig in, you got to get through the cobwebs first, Jeff. But, I've been in this area for 25 years. I worked for Consolidated. My whole career was in telecom. I was 10 years before that at a company in Rantoul and then Ohio, and moved around before coming to Charleston. So after 2.5 months of retirement, there's only so many books you can read. And I felt like probably needed to look around and get more active in the community and do some things. And when the merger didn't go through, I knew there was a need out there for that role. And knowing how hard it is, especially now, to find workers and to find qualified people, I knew there was a need. And as Joe Dively told me, you can't put a value on community service. And so community service was definitely a part of it, but also just doing something that was fun. And this is a job that I'm able to get out there, meet a lot of people, get to know them in a more personal level rather than just, hey, how are you? And maybe you remember their name and maybe you don't.
So is it safe to say that you kind of made the decision you want to do this, or did someone kind of nudge you or say, hey, that job is opening with
No, I had the idea and then reached out to a board member that I knew, and they talked to me about it, and so applied, and So, it was my idea I noticed that,
I think that's better.
What are we going to do now?
Yeah.
I'm on the board of Coals Together, and, I've enjoyed that, economic development with Angela and working with Ed. And so when we were talking about the Charleston Chamber and where we go from here, it was apparent that they needed to put a person in the job because the predecessor decided to go back to school. Yep. So that's good, but it opened up an opportunity to me to be in a role that I enjoy.
You touched base on the merger not going through, and I've been through that a couple times when I was on the board, and I was even on Matt Toon way back when on some of the things. So how disappointed were you when the merger didn't happen, or did you have an opinion on that?
I didn't really have an opinion. It was disappointing. A lot of the chambers have gone to county-wide. But at the same time, there are some differences, and it's really not affecting how we collaborate. I work with Ed extensively and with Angela. I worked in Mattoon. My office was there for 25 years. So I think it is something that we can collaborate with, not just Mattoon and Charleston, but also Ashmore and Oakland. And we've done that. The leaders of the chamber in Oakland are part of our committees, and we're working together.
Yeah, you mentioned, Charleston's kind of the area you've settled in, and because you moved around a little bit before that. I guess what about Charleston? Is it just work opportunities or that kind of thing that's kept you here, or is there something else?
Work was definitely a part of it, but I've come to love Charleston. I have deep roots here. My 2 daughters went to Charleston schools, both went to EIU. So it's a community I have a lot of friends in, and so enjoy that. I originally grew up in Champaign, and so like the college town atmosphere, and Charleston is kind of maybe a smaller Champaign, but also has a lot of distinct advantages.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
One of the things that was scheduled to be starting here soon in January is going to be your the lunch for the annual dinner, not the lunch, for the Heroes event, with your annual dinner. But you have moved up to April. Talk about that decision making and what people can expect in April.
Well, we're really excited about this year's annual dinner and Heroes reception. As you know, Jeff, we have a Citizen of the Year. And instead of doing that this year, we're having Heroes of the Year. And so police, firemen, teachers, and nurses we'll have a reception for them and honor them both at the annual dinner and the reception. As far as postponing, it was a tough decision, and we were set for January 30th, but we want to celebrate, and especially celebrate the hard work that those groups have put in. And it's hard to celebrate when they're still in the midst of fighting it. So with the spike in cases, the spike in hospitalizations, we just thought it was best to postpone it when we can really have an atmosphere that is conducive to a celebration.
And you were telling me that it's at Easter, and you're going to have a band and a comic, so that's cool.
Yeah, the dinner we'll have live music at, and then at the reception we got a comic coming out of L.A. that we pulled some connections, pulled some of our markers to get here. And he's to be hilarious. And then JD Construction is playing. They played at Ike's, and they're a well-known local band that is donating their time. So, yes, and those. So different. If you're going to the dinner, you get into the reception, but they're really two separate events. And we think a lot of people go to the reception rather than the dinner. So we're hoping for a big crowd at both events.
Okay. There's more information on your website if people are interested in that. You obviously you got about 90 days or so on the job before the 2022 has kicked in, and then you really kind of focus on your first year. But talk about those first 90 days. I know we had the tour to Charleston. You didn't get ran over, I guess. So talk about that. What that means to Charleston now. Those events.
Well, the tour to Charleston is a bike race, and it draws from Terre Haute, Bloomington, Champaign, and even further. And it's an interesting event. And it was my first week on the job, and that was held that Saturday following. Now, the board stepped up. They ran the whole thing. I was observing, but I must have heard over 10 times, "This will be your job next year." So it was very popular. Interesting enough, what attracts people to come to Charleston for that bike race, and a lot of the bikers quoted it's the topology, and you don't think about that in this area of that being a draw, but as the hills and going around Lake Charleston and the up and down, which I don't like when riding a bike, but the bike racers, especially the serious ones, they love the hills and the 50-mile track. Interesting enough, a young man, local area, Josh Bommelje, that grew up here and now is a SIU student, he won the event against a lot of serious bikers across the state. And my daughter babysat for Josh. I couldn't believe it. He was the strong man that pumped through the end. It was an exciting finish. Lots of excitement out on the square. The EIU soccer team was there that was cheering them on, but it was kind of a photo finish at the end.
Oh, cool.
But it takes a lot of coordination, a lot of planning, and we've started that now. It's the fourth Saturday in September.
All right, we'll look forward to that. Tristan?
Yeah, what are some of the events you've maybe are still planning on having coming up locally, even with the spiking cases?
Well, we have our business after hours for businesses that come up, that they'll host the after hours, and it's a networking event. That's proceeding. We're lining up the schedule for that. That's another example of collaboration with the Mattoon Club, where we have about 4 joint events per year. In addition, we're working on a conference that will look at hiring practices in 2022, because they've changed. There's not the available workers, and so that's in conjunction with Manpower. Ed and I are working to schedule a date, and we're excited about that. Again, that's the number one issue facing businesses, is to find those workers. And how you interview now, it's interesting. It used to be the interviewer asking the question, why should we hire you for this position? Now it's more the person being interviewed, why should I work for your company, versus the other 3 offers that I have.
Yeah, that is the COVID difference, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's amazing. other events that you plan on doing, or are you still in the planning stages?
In the planning stages, we have our Scare on the Square, and we want to make that bigger this coming year. One that's in the planning is one of my personal favorites. A fun event would be what I'm calling a K9 costume contest.
Okay.
So dressing up the dogs on Halloween, having some events down at the square to draw people down to the square and the many shops and boutiques on the square. That's a copied idea from the White House, did a thing. And so we have some pet stores that are partnering with us on that. Now, Dr. Glassman's favorite here at EIU is to have a kayak race out at Lake Charleston. We haven't figured out the logistics on that, or if
Or
that's
the
going to
insurance.
happen, or the insurance, yes. But that's one that's on the drawing board. Another one that is we want to bring back as soon as possible is the community update breakfast that we held at the Brick House. Very popular. Another joint event with the Mattoon Chamber, and was always a full house to have an update on what's going on in the community. And so looking forward to scheduling one of those in July.
One of the things that you said off air before we started, you kind of wanted to dispel kind of a thought that's in the area. And I'll just let you kind of to go through this, and it's kind of that town and gown thing. So talk about that and how you'd like to continue to conquer that problem.
Well, the thought is that Charleston is two separate communities. One, the EIU community, and the rest of the city, or the locals, if you will. And I think both are local. And in our strategic planning process, we talked about collaboration with partners, whether it's Coals Together or other chambers, etc., but also EIU. And there are so many things that we partner with already, some of them that are formalized and some that we're working on, but I don't see it that way. I see us as one community, and EIU is very much involved with the chamber. Dr. Glassman's an advisory board member. We recently have a new board member, Ken Wetstein, who's
a good man. Yep.
A good man that is building a house here in Charleston and has roots. So he's on our board. We use marketing interns for our businesses. So EIU's marketing interns are available to businesses that need an intern and need some help with their marketing. We, through Dr. Lori DeRuiter and students, her grad students, run the 18th Street Farmers Market that is sponsored by the chamber. And then we do a small business spotlight where the School of Journalism is involved in helping us do that focus on a small business and their profile with some pictures, etc., and really doing a nice job with that spotlight that helps those small businesses publicize what they have to offer to their customers.
And I know there's other groups that do stuff with volunteerism too. I know the Gillespies do a lot of that, where they combine, the students go out into the Charleston community and do trash or help with the clean up the parks and all that stuff. So there's all kinds of things going on. So I agree with you. I'd love to dispel that rumor. Tristan?
Yeah, you mentioned the Scare on the Square and kind of trying to draw people down to local businesses in the downtown local area. Is that like an overarching focus you guys are trying to focus on? Because it seems like the way things are moving is those local businesses are getting less and less traffic as more things go online.
Yeah, I think promoting all of our members is a focus. It is all about the membership and the businesses in the area. It's in our mission statement of promoting and protecting our businesses, and so that's the primary mission. But the square has a concentration there. It's historic. It's a small business area that could use the help and the support of the chamber to help bring customers to them. So drawing people from the outside area that can see what all of Charleston has to offer and the uniqueness of it, that's something that we definitely want to do going forward.
Let's go back to the strategic plan just for a second, Doug. When you talk about what you accomplished in your strategic plan, and then kind of your the bullet points as we look towards 2022.
Okay. Well, that was going back to my first 3 months on the job, which now about the 4th month on the job. So the honeymoon is long over. So, but the strategic plan started in about June of last year before I joined, and that was the first step. Thankfully, we had a resource, Amina Markham, who does strategic planning across the country for large companies, and donated her time to help out the chamber. And so we sat on the second session and boiled that down to a new mission statement and a vision statement, along with platforms, and then we're able to put it on one page. How many times have you heard of a strategic plan that's on one page? So it's very straightforward and simple of how the Charleston Chamber will operate over the next 3 years and what our focus and priorities are. So the vision is a thriving Charleston area where individuals and families enjoy working, shopping, and socializing. And that's what we're saying is it's not necessarily that I certainly enjoy it. I think most community members enjoy it today, but let's ramp up the success of that and make sure we're aware of all the advantages and can thrive. As I mentioned on the mission, promote and protect our businesses, prepare and provide networking opportunities, such as the after hours and other events, and partner and pursue economic growth. We aren't necessarily the lead of the economic growth. The new Trammell bill, Coals Together, had lead on that. But if it's a local restaurant in Charleston, we partner with the city, Steve Pamper and Scott Smith, on attracting small businesses to this area. So, and then from there, we, what are we going to do to that to emphasize that? Hold a signature event every quarter. Go after some of our members that in the pandemic may have dropped, and let's get them back into the chamber and collaborate with our partners. I mentioned the collaboration with the WEIU, and we also collaborate with others such as Coals Together and the other city departments, manpower, etc.
You said there about getting some of the, because you're a membership organization. You're as strong as your members. But I would love to get the Doug Abolt. Let's say you're going back into Tristan's business, has said, no, I don't want to be a member because of COVID last couple of years. What's the 2022 Doug Abolt approach to go in and say, Tristan, we need you back? Have you done that yet? Or is there a style?
Yeah, we absolutely have done that, and I think the advantages is being part of a group that promotes business in the area. The resources that the chamber offers, sometimes what a business puts into it is what they get out of it.
Yep.
At the same time, they're there, and the help that we can provide, whether it's access to grants, which was during COVID, there's a lot of funds available. And it's complicated to get through some of those grant applications. So making sure they're aware of what's available in our newsletter, and also helping them complete the paperwork and connecting them with the right people that can help them.
That's a good answer. You said also off mic that you were really lucky that you I didn't know you had an assistant there, because you have to have that person who runs the business when Doug Abolt isn't there. And talk about her and how you got her and what she means as you go forward for 2022.
Sure. Yeah, and as I've mentioned, it's hard to recruit, and I really had 2 strikes. And Jeff, as a sports fan that you are, I had an 0-2 count because we had tried twice on the applicants, but on the third, I really feel like I hit a home run. We have a young lady, Andy Belize, who's went to Charleston schools, went on to Indiana State, had graduated from there with a focus on graphic design. So as you see our brochure and posters on the annual event, we have a Beatles theme.
Yeah.
Looks like a 70s concert poster. that Andy designed. So that's a great fit. But she's been a big help. She also has, in her past, owned a small business, so she relates
She understands, yeah.
to our customers. So excited about having her on board. The predecessor on that was the other challenge. Angelique Elser, who husband works here at EIU of the Booth Library, but she decided to go back to school, and she was just a little bit away from her PhD and master's, so that's understandable. She says it wasn't because of me starting, but I think I believe that.
Yeah.
But she was very helpful in the transition to do what she could, even when she wasn't employed there. She helped us get through the transitional time, because as I first started, it was a one-person operation, and there's a lot of well, how do you do this and how do you do that, and what's some of the history.
Yeah, you mentioned some of the things you guys do to help businesses and whatever their needs are. What you mentioned also that businesses can kind of help them. I guess what are you ideally looking for in a business you're in relationship with to help you guys, provide your services and vice versa?
There's all kinds of different businesses. So the benefits vary as far as the type of business. So anybody that's interested in networking, interested in access to resources, connecting to people in the community and in other aspects of business would be a candidate. Maybe you can expand on that question a bit.
Do they still offer the website part of it? If you become a member, the Charleston Chamber helps build the website for them?
Well, we don't help build the website. We advertise on our website and
There's a page
connect
link,
them.
yeah.
We do have the Power program, where it's exclusive to members, and those manufacturing businesses that use a lot of power over the last 10 years have saved over $500,000. So that has been a big benefit to manufacturing, and an example of how a manufacturing might differ than a hair and nail shop.
Right.
And those benefits. So versus a large company that has their own HR department, their own advertising department, versus a small one that, I would like this to go out in your newsletter to everybody that I'm having this promotion this weekend.
You mentioned the Trailmobile thing that Cole's put together, and they were here last summer, I believe, to talk about that. What is the status and update of what the timeline is for that? Is there any news out there?
I have not seen. I've been asked that. I still believe it's on track.
Okay.
I know they've invested a lot in the building. They're excited about coming, but no news is good news as far as they're going forward, and there's no bad rumors out there that I've heard.
Well, speaking of rumors, we always, every time we have a chamber person or a city person, we have to ask this next question. What new businesses are coming to Charleston? Have you heard anything, or what can not tell us or hint at? We were going to ask.
I don't have any inside scoop on that.
I don't. It sounds like Scott Smith last time. Right?
Yeah,
not breaking any news here.
But I think there are some prime locations. There was a person in town looking for a spot near campus for a restaurant. I don't think it was a pizza or a Mexican restaurant, but who knows? But First Federal, closed. If anybody's looking for a spot next to campus, that First Federal building, which they moved to one branch rather than two in Charleston, but that's right across from Old Main, so you can't get much closer to that. And we all know that the Cajun place has been there for a while, and that there's no news on that.
Yeah, I think we're stuck with that one maybe forever, seems like. What about any positions on the board of directors for the chamber? You full for 2022, or is there openings?
No, we are full for 2022, and again, the board, and not just to butter them up, has been very active, very supportive, and involved in the committee and doing the work. And so it isn't, I'm not just making this up. It isn't a one-man show or a two-person show of the staff. We have the board of directors that's very involved. And one of the questions before I even wanted to accept the job is to make sure that the diplomats were in place. And those are the volunteers that help with the events, are involved in the committees, call on businesses, do whatever they need to support the chamber. And they're also representative of different companies. And we have a monthly meeting that kind of around the table of what's going on in Charleston. And they bring their input and their ideas to the chamber.
Tristan touched on this a minute ago that buying local has become so much more important during this last 2 years really of COVID. Talk about Charleston's and the Charleston Chamber's imprint on buying local.
Yeah, that's we know that Cindy Titus was very involved and longtime leader of the chamber. She had that program really humming, and there was a lot of emphasis put on it. And to me, it's about raising the awareness of the advantages of buying and shopping local and exploring what's in the area, keeping the money in the Charleston area to support all the things that we need to do to thrive economically. And so we're taking another run at that, of raising that awareness. It's hard to measure, have you raised that awareness? Yeah. But it's time to re-energize that program and get it back on the docket.
We got about a minute and a half left with Doug Abolt. Tristan, any other questions?
Yeah, I guess, kind of mentioned the hiring process being different and that being a challenge for some businesses locally. Are there any other major challenges you're hearing from businesses about, having a local business nowadays?
Of course, this is no surprise. It's the challenge of dealing with COVID, and looking forward to getting through that and getting more traffic in the area, not just from the local, but drawing people to the community. And that's where the events come in, networking opportunities again to connect people.
What do people ask you so far, Doug? When they see you on the street or at a ball game or at the coffee shop? Why'd you take this job? Or
usually they ask about my daughters, and that's about it. They're more famous than me by a lot. But just what's going on? How are we doing? How's things moving forward? And what are the plans? It's kind of the same things that you and Tristan have asked. And some of it's to be defined. It's kind of hard to just put it in here's step 1, 2, 3. But at the same time, there's a lot of good things going on, and we do our best to emphasize the positives.
Well, we do appreciate you coming by today, Doug, and talking to us, and we're definitely going to have you back a couple times a year. That's been the plan with Cindy and Jess. So hopefully you'll come back here in the fall and talk about all the good things you've been doing.
Great.
Everybody, we are WEIU.